It was minus 30 last night. It's now up to a high of minus 20. People want me to go and shovel right now, and it's miserably deathly cold out, but I think I'm going to do it as the day continues to get some of the sunshine. Get out there and put an hour of work in this cold. In the meantime, let's talk Kung Fu. Welcome to another part of my ongoing conversations with Seafood John Kaufman. This conversation's still from over a week ago, so we keep moving through. Today's episode is called Observe Without Judgment. You're already perfect. Early on in the conversation, John's talking about training with people who aren't martial artists or people who are from different martial arts, and definitely made me think of you, Malcolm McCall. So that's why I was talking to you this morning. It got me thinking. And it's like, I need to get up to Prince George and do some sticking hands with that Tai Chi guy. He's pretty good. So shout out to you, Malcolm. Glad you're watching these videos. Made me think of all the people who've come over here over the years, or we've been at festivals backstage, and someone like you, Malcolm, were like, hey, let's play. And then Joey starts playing. And I've always made use of people around me. And so that was nice to hear John suggesting to do that, because that's what you have to do sometimes when you don't have Wing Chun people around. Enjoy this next episode. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. If you haven't subscribed to John Kaufman's channel, please do. You can find it right here. And do leave a positive comment. Share the video around. Help us grow the channel. And practice good Kung Fu.
And manipulate my energy. But it's not like this is a whole different Silam Tao you have to learn. Or it's not like you've seen those guys in Singapore or something, and they have a different kind of Wing Chun, and it's like it's Wing Chun or something. I don't even recognize it. You know, it's like it's not like I'm having to like learn something completely different. It's the same thing I'm doing. It's just with a different idea.
Well, there are many different methodologies of Wing Chun. Wing Chun, Wengchun, is, as far as I understand it anyway, a different martial art than Wing Chun, although there are great overlaps in terms of the way some of the forms look and so forth. But I'm sure Wing Chun people would tell you that it's not the same as Wing Chun at all. And of course, within Wing Chun itself, there are many different lineages, both inside and outside of the Ip Man lineage. There, you can look at online and see like what they commonly referred to as Vietnamese Wing Chun, and the form of their movement is very different. And in many Wing Chun lineages, the actual form itself is different. There are Wing Chun lineages that have one long form that's actually never been broken into the three Ip Man Wing Chun forms of Sunam Tao, Chum Kyu, and Biljin. Okay. So, with any Wing Chun lineage, no matter how different it is, there's always a lot of similarities. And then within any particular single teacher or lineage, there's also various ways that students express their own Wing Chun within that particular lineage. And all we're really saying is there's no shortage of ways in which people use their bodies. Okay. Now, to come back to something, because I think it's more practically relevant, that you touched upon. You were saying how you don't have people that you can test out what you do with. Okay. But you make certain observations about your increased abilities as time goes by when you've been exposed to and are practicing particular ideas. Fair enough. I'm saying to you that one of the better ways of practicing and improving your skill level is to take somebody, and I've told you this before, it doesn't have to be anybody that does any martial art. It makes no difference, okay? It could be your girlfriend. It could be your child. It can be anybody, okay? And someone you work with that doesn't do martial arts, but you're on a coffee break, okay? And they're willing to put up with you and your interests, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the person I use most for this is my wife, okay? And you get them to apply some resistance to any particular motion you want to make. And when I say any motion, I mean any motion. It can be, but it doesn't have to be a specific motion from Sunam Tao form or Chum Kyu form or any martial art form. It can simply be move from A to B. Okay. And they're going to like already start in contact with you. Let's say you're just going to do this motion. Okay. and you have them contact you and you instruct them. Get braced on the ground, spread your feet apart, teach them how to brace. Teach them how to apply force, okay? It's not complicated. And then tell them, don't let me move. I'm going to try to do this motion. I want you to try to stop me from moving, okay? Now, you're right. I'm just interrupting myself for a second. You take the average person who doesn't do martial arts, or even if they do a different thing from you. But just take someone who has no martial art background at all. And then you tell them, I'm going to try to move. I want you, don't let me, okay? A lot of time what's going to happen is they'll just automatically move their arm, okay? They'll start noodling their arm or something and you're trying to move. But they're not really giving you resistance. They're just kind of moving somehow, some crazy way, right? And because they're not a Wing Chun guy and you're not doing some drill, right? They're just moving, okay? Then you're not being tested, okay? Yeah, they're not stopping you from moving, but they're not testing you either, and you're not really getting anything out of the experience, okay?
I'm not getting a real challenge.
Or what happens is they're actually moving in a way which makes it difficult for you to move. And now it's pretty frustrating for you, and it's even you're more fucked up than you were before. Okay, okay. So what I'm saying is this: we're talking about testing the skills of what we've been describing all day today. Okay, and in order to do that, you take somebody and you teach them how to brace, for instance, and you tell them, "Don't let me move." Don't let me move you. So they won't move around like that and start noodling or whatever. That their job is to stay there and to stop you from moving them and from moving yourself. Okay? And now you're given a real test. You don't have you don't have to have a martial artist to give you meaningful resistance in this way. Anybody can give you serious, meaningful resistance. Muscular resistance. Anybody can do that, okay? And now you're giving yourself a test. Against serious muscular resistance, can you move with, and if you can, how much tension, how much strength do you have to use to move? And you're going to know if you have any semblance of self-honesty immediately. Number one, can you move? And number two, how much strength do you have to use? And you know what I mean by strength. I mean muscle force, tension.
Yeah.
So you're going to know right away how well you can do what it is we're trying to develop. Immediately, you're going to know. And I'm telling you flat out, and I know this 100%, or I wouldn't say it. If you're doing this stuff really correctly, you'll be able to move. Hence, they will be moved away. And you won't feel anything. And they'll get moved away. And then they're probably going to look at you and say, how did you do that? And you're going to say, I don't know. I just moved. Because you don't feel a thing. If you feel any power, if you feel any strength, by definition, it means you're feeling some tension somewhere in your body. And that's the degree to which you're not doing this more as completely as we want to be able to. And that'll never change. It's always like that. When you're doing it really well, there's nothing for you to feel because there's the absence of tension. Remember that exercise we did together, half an hour ago, where we're like this. And I said, now, instead of having what's in your mind moving me, just what's having your mind floating forward. Remember that? And you did it. And I asked you to describe what was happening in your body. And your answer was that you were like whole. You felt whole. And as that whole, you were just going forward and you didn't feel anything in your hand at the point of contact either. Remember that?
Yep.
That's why you felt what you felt and described it that way. Because when you're doing it correctly, doing what? Being whole, having the mind so that you're whole, your body's in a whole state condition, and you're allowing it to move in that condition, there's nothing to feel because there's no tension in you. So there is nothing to feel. You'll observe the effect it has on me. You'll be able to move me easily, but you won't feel anything when it's happening. And everyone that does it correctly has the same experience without exception. Jesus, did I do that? Did I move you? I didn't feel anything, but I didn't feel anything. And we all start laughing. I didn't feel anything. And it's exciting. And then you try to do it again and it's not working as well because you're looking for the same thing. You're evaluating as it's happening. So now your body is introducing some level of tension wherever it is because you're looking to evaluate to see if you can repeat it. The only way to really repeat it is not to look at it. Just move without looking. Just move without evaluation. Have you ever heard of Krishnamurti, the philosopher?
Yeah, Krishnamurti, yeah.
Okay, Bruce Lee's favorite philosopher. If you read any Krishnamurti, what he says over and over and over again, repeatedly, is how to change behavior that we want to change, how to meditate, how to do anything. His description of how to follow, what to do, is always the same. Observe without judgment is the key. Observe without judgment. So in this context, move without evaluation. Be without evaluation. Okay? Movement itself, not movement, is it working? Not movement, look how powerful I am. Not movement, how do I do it in my shoulder or my foot or my torso? None of that. There is, remember what I say, in my Kung Fu, there is N-O, know how to.
Know how.
Okay? That's what I'm talking about. Okay? When you moved as one and had that experience of being whole and moving as whole, that was not an experience of you knowing something. It was an experience of you being a certain way in movement. And the only reason you could do that is because I told you to imagine floating forward. Nothing else. Not how to float, not what to float, not the effect of floating will have on me or even you, but just floating itself. Okay? That is that's in the, it's an idea, and that informs the body and the body's movement. Once you start adding to the idea, or you add method or specifics or evaluations, you're not there anymore. You're not in the same mental mind-body connection anymore, and it's not going to happen for you. That's why we do this correctly in one moment, and we think, wow. And we get the chills, and it's the light bulb moment, and there's nothing more exciting than that. And then 5 seconds later, we try to do it again, and it's not going to work. And we go, oh, fuck. And the reason why it doesn't work now is because we're trying to repeat it. We didn't just let it happen. The only reason it happened is because you stopped trying. But now I'm trying because I love it so much. I want to control it. I want to own it, right? You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And that's the frustration of it. Because that's how we learn how to learn, is learn how to control and own things. We can't do it. It doesn't work. The only way to repeat it is to give up again and give up again. Give up owning, give up control. Everything we work so hard for, everything we paid money for, we work so hard for. We have to look at it and go, you know what? None of this works. I have to give up my effort. I have to give up my control. I have to give up everything. Then maybe I have a chance. That's so difficult to do mentally because we're so committed to wanting to own it and control it, because then it'll be us. And I love it. And it'll be me, right? The only way for it to truly be you is to give up control. The only fucking way you could fall off that roof and survive without injury is because your mind and body totally gave up control in the fall. Am I right?
You is irrelevant, or it should be, you know.
Control is your enemy then, isn't it?
Well, there is no control. And you know, it's an illusion we have in life in general. We want to control things. We want to categorize them and stack them and put them neatly and clean them. And if you'll excuse me for 10 seconds, I just want to grab a couple pieces of firewood.
No problem.
If I don't, then my coals will go out. And then back.
Yes, I'm sure that you are, of course, as a factual matter, you're correct. In most things, we probably don't actually have control, even though we're trying to exercise control and we think we have it. But that itself, that concept, well, maybe we don't really have control in reality. And that knowledge of that fact, if it is a fact, is simply another example of us trying to control our knowledge, using our knowledge to control that. Oh, look, I know that I don't have control. That's a form of self-knowledge. That's a form of reality and that itself is deep down an effort at control. And so the point is that real meditation, the real work, as Krishnamurti would describe it, the real work of using this way of doing Kung Fu, if you will, is acceptance. Because true acceptance that you don't have control, that control is counterproductive, which is what we're saying, that the effort to control is counterproductive. The reality, the acceptance of that fact in reality is the very activity of doing it correctly. So at the end of the day, it's about that acceptance. Not, I accept that I don't have control, but I transcend control itself. Accept that that's what's necessary. That you don't care. You said a while ago about not caring, and I said the reason you could fall off the roof and not get hurt is because you didn't care. So your body could do what it needed to do. And that's what we're talking about here. You don't care.
I've often said,
you don't accept that you don't have control and say, okay, it's okay that I don't have control. Because that's still a way to control the fact that you've accepted it. I know this is difficult to follow.
No, I understand what you're saying.
The transcendence of acceptance itself, the need to accept. No, I don't need anything. Remember last time we talked, one of the things I mentioned was sometimes I'll have a student take a position in space, whatever that is, their arms, wherever. And I say, okay, now accept the fact that you're already perfect. There is nothing to change. There's no need to go there and figure out, is it right? Is it wrong? How do I make it right? How to correct it? If you can truly accept the fact that it's already perfect, your body condition will be correct naturally by itself. There'll be nothing you need to add or change or do. So when you practice as an actual developmental skill matter to do the things we're talking about, how to make your body whole and connected, how to move it in that state, you have to start with accepting you're already perfect. So like put your hands somewhere, I don't care where. Okay? Both of them. Now, accept the fact that in that position, you're already perfect. There's nothing to do. Just like, bear with me for one more second, please. When you had your hands on your chest, it was already perfect because there's nothing there's nothing that needs to do to change, to rest there. You've already rested them there. And I've already told you that you're going to leave them there and not let them move away from your chest. So now in this position, it could be any other one, I don't care. You need to tell yourself that it's the same as when your hands were resting on your chest, which is just another way of saying your arms now are part of your center. Which is saying what in reality? That you are one whole. Because if your arms, hands, are part of your center / body as a whole, then there's no difference between your hand and your body. There's no need to make any change. And therefore, when you move your body, your hands move because it's all just one thing. Even when they move independently, it's all just one thing because they're connected. So this is how you start to develop the skills of what we're talking about. Wherever your hands are, I don't care. You could put them like this. You can put them like this. That's the real meaning behind Zamzong practice. You can put them like this. You can take some position. I don't care, okay? Wherever they are, you want to first make them part of the rest of you. Like when your hands were resting on your chest like this. It's easy to do when you're physically on your torso like this. But as soon as you start moving your hands away from your torso, it's much more challenging to allow them to become part of your torso, if you will, because you're going to be using things to hold them separate, to hold them up, to hold them out. And muscles start being, yes, muscles will
give too much.
Muscles will start being activated to hold them away from yourself, like in the shoulder, in the upper arm, in the bicep, in the tricep, in the back area. Things start getting activated. So where they don't need to be activated at all when you're doing this. That's why while you're lying in bed on your back, for instance, doing this, like you're a corpse, it's very easy to be in the state we're talking about. Okay? But as soon as you stand up, it's much more challenging because there are muscles automatically being used to keep you upright instead of falling to the ground like a puddle. And on top of that, when your hands are away from your torso, other muscles are being used automatically to hold you in that shape and position. So the challenge is to try to allow, as best as you can, practicing over time, more and more release, where in positions where your hands are away from your torso and you're standing up, you want the state of the condition of your body and your muscles to be closer to where they are when you're like this. Okay? And that's what you want to be practicing. So let's say I'm going to start to chisao with you. Just tell me if I'm mistaken. Most people, when they start chisaing with a partner, as even before they start touching, their muscles are activated because they anticipate the contact. And they're also told about the importance of forward energy. So all this activation has already started even before contact. And certainly when contact is made, there's all of this muscles being used. Now, maybe they're not trying to use them deliberately in a tense way, but they're still using muscles. They're being activated. By activated, I mean under a level of tension to one degree or another. And then when the action starts happening, developing on the level of pressure that's being applied and the speed and the challenge they're faced with, the muscles get more and more activated so that there's more tension invades the body in certain ways. And that's what happens with chisao with pretty much everybody, okay? But in order to do it the way we're talking about, you have to make your sole priority, even in chisao, and especially, I would say in chisao, doing nothing. Trying to maintain that transcendence. trying to maintain that state of connected to the torso, that state of only using body, not arms, that state of release, doing nothing, not caring as much as possible in the moment, moment to moment. And that is a very, very big challenge, and it's not easy to do. And it's the same challenge we all face without exception. And it's always going to be a matter of degree, how completely we can do it and how consistently we can maintain it under greater challenge, meaning greater pressure, greater speed against greater skill. And that is what it's always going to boil down to. That is the method of improving at the Chu Shan Tin way of doing Wing Chun. There is no other method. There is no other method of improvement other than what I've just described.